Welcome to the very first episode of The Power is in Your Pocket. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like, share, comment, whatever you'd like to do. I'm here for you. So the purpose of this channel is for me to provide financial information. And, I know a little thing or two about money, and I used to be a private banker. So I would like to empower you with knowledge and ideas on how to create wealth and how to be money savvy and all those fancy words, right? I'd like to begin with the end of 2015. So at the end of 2015, I resigned as a private banker without a plan. I was like, deuces, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to start a business. And I had this plan, that I'm going to, I had this plan in place. So it didn't quite happen the way that I expected it to. So in 2015, December, I resigned. And then in 2016, I registered two businesses, which are PCT and Botipa Consulting. So I was ready to rock and roll at that time. And then, boom, I was pregnant. So you can imagine how interesting that became. And at the time when I was pregnant, I was working at a media company, and I didn't even stay long, and I left. And then I tried this and that, and pregnancy brain, I don't know what happened. But anyway, so things just did not go according to plan. In 2017, I came back home to Bloemfontein because it was my first child. And in our culture, when you have your first child, you need to have your child back at home so that your mom can show you how to raise a child, right? So I thought I was going to be here for 6 months, and I'm going to go back to Joburg. I'm going to go back home, if I should put it that way, because I had a property in Johannesburg. And that just didn't happen. Things just didn't work out. So when my boy was 6 months, that's when I started working on my business. And because my plan was to go back to Joburg, but because I was in Bloemfontein already, I thought, why not start here and see how it goes, just the whole grow where you're planted. But in that whole process, my car got repossessed, my property got auctioned. Today, in 2020, I still owe the bank over 700,000 Rand for a property that I don't own. I still get calls from multiple service providers who want their money. I don't have the money to pay for it. My business hasn't grown that far for me to be able to commit to any repayment. So I get calls daily about paying. Please, if you're working wherever and you find my name somewhere, I'm going to pay you back. I want to pay you back, right? But that is basically where I am right now. So my net asset value is standing at about between 750, negative 750 and 800,000. So I owe people about that much money. So one would ask, so why do you think you can give people advice on money if you are in such a jam yourself? So the difference with me is that I know how to get myself out of that mess. I wasn't that messy before all this happened. I mean, this has been the hardest time of my life. And sure, I'm not just talking about financially, I'm talking mind, body, and soul. And be that as it may, I know how to get myself out of the financial mess. And I know there are so many people sitting at home. They might not be in the same situation as mine, They might be in worse situations, or somebody's just sitting there watching and be like, yo, I thought I had problems. But look, there are people who are anxious, they are depressed, some are even thinking of committing suicide because of their finances. So I know a thing or two. I'm going to cover a whole series of videos just talking about how to approach your finances, and just talking about how to view money differently, and how you should have a relationship with money, and that money is not something that is just arm's length, something to think at the back of your mind. It's your blood, sweat, and tears. So you need to be able to nurture it in order for you to grow. I found myself at a point just before I resigned. I felt like a hamster. I felt like I was working, but there was no progress in terms of money. But I'm here to talk to you about all of that. So let me start with why I think I can talk about money, and it goes back to my studies. So I studied a BCom in statistics. I majored in statistics, economics, and money and banking. I think it's called finance right now. And then I further went on to study an honors in economics, potato. When I left varsity, I went straight into a private bank in Durban, and that's when my experience started, and that was in 2016 when my banking experience began. So that was in 2006. So I worked in a few positions at the bank. We hop, skip, and jump positions. And I also left the bank at some point to work for an FMCG. And then I worked for a media company as well. And then I went back to banking. So the last 4 years in corporate, I was a private banker. So one would ask, why did you leave corporate? I mean, I get that question a lot. So I've got many reasons, and it all boils down to money. It just all boils down to money. So number one, I wanted a higher salary, bottom line. And where I worked, they were not able to give me that salary, right? And number two, I felt like I did everything right, in terms of my finances. So in 2014, 2015, I wanted to buy property, right? And when I found the perfect property that I wanted to buy, I had to give up my car. So at the time, I drove a BMW 3 Series, and then I bought a smaller car in order for me to get my property. And then, once I had the property, there were more things that I wanted, and I couldn't afford them. I just felt like I was making ends meet. And the reason for that is because from renting property to buying a property, my expenses doubled in terms of property. So sure, now I'm paying a bond, and then there's rates and taxes, there's levies and this and that, so it became hard, but I didn't have any regrets that I was buying property. I had worked for a very long time, and I was just tired of renting. So now when I wanted more, I just didn't understand that does my salary have to increase, or do I have to keep sacrificing things? And the more I realized that I always had to think about what is it that I'm going to give up. I mean, when you get guilty when you're buying yourself clothes, and then when you think of spoiling yourself and doing the things that you love, and you actually feel like you're being wasteful. And then at some point you're like, and then you decide not to be wasteful, but then you realize you're just working to pay the bills, and that just didn't sit well with me. And then that's when I started evaluating my financial situation, and I was like, what is happening here, So I went and negotiated a higher salary with my boss, and he was kind enough to hear me out, and he was like, just get your KPIs in order. Not that they were not, but like he needed more ammunition for him to be able to fight for me at HR. Okay, let me explain the score system first. The KPIs work on a scale of 0 to 5, where I used to work, right? So when you're a 1, you really don't want your job, you really don't like it, and you must just leave, right? Now, when you're a 2, you're doing something, but it's not just there. So maybe you need coaching or something, then they help you out. And number 3, you're basically just doing your job. At 4, you're going the extra mile. 5, you need to move to a new job because you're outdoing yourself, right? So when I left, I was a 4.27. But obviously, it gradually increased from where I was. I think it was like a 3.6 before, if I don't remember. But anyway, I worked hard to get that salary. But came the time when we were supposed to increase the salary and discuss bonuses. I did not get the salary increase that I wanted, and I did not get the bonus that I wanted. And it wasn't my boss's fault, really. He really tried. It was just the organization and the decisions that were made. So he had no control over the whole situation. But earlier on that year, he literally went to HR and asked and recommended me for another position as a wealth banker. So I was a private banker in the wealth space, but there's a team that deals with clients that have a net asset value of a minimum of 200 million rand. So he recommended me for one of the positions that were open there, and I was told that I need to apply for it. What irritated me was that during that year, I was awarded Private Banker of the Year, and I just didn't understand what more I needed to prove in order to get into that position, And then when I was told to apply for the job, and I was like, then I started thinking about it. I was like, okay, the policy says that if you move laterally within your job band, something like that, then your salary can only increase by 5%. And then I thought, okay, more responsibility, new clients, new relationships, new this, new that for 5% increase, and I just left it, So that's another reason, like one of the reasons why I got agitated, right? And then I started applying for other jobs, and I never got them, and I wanted to get out of private banking because it takes it takes your mind, body, and soul to be a great private banker, and I was just tired and drained by it. And not that I didn't like it, but it was just draining for the amount of money that I was getting from it. So I started applying for like quantitative analyst positions, and I got none of them. And then in 2015, Fees Must Fall, I was inspired by the students. I really love students and the fight within them. So, they also showed me the position that I was in, So there's this placard that I actually want to read that I read it and I was like, but I'm in the same situation, It says, post-apartheid racist society says, you are poor because you are uneducated, go get a degree. Colonial elitist universities say, you are too poor to take yourself out of poverty. # we are fucked. # shut it down. This resonated with me because I thought, oh my word, I'm working so hard to get to a certain place. But when I'm recommended for this certain place, I'm told that I'm not good enough for it, or I need to apply, or I need to do this and that and that and that. And yes, people can call me entitled and all sorts of things, but I know what I deserve. I learned to value myself over the years. So I was like, no, thank you. I'm in the same position. So what is it? What am I going to do to change my situation? And that's one of the reasons why I resigned. And then if I wasn't sure, when I was thinking about resigning, then I went to Home Cell this one time. And what was spoken about was stepping into faith. The whole theme of the Home Cell was about, us, we pray, we keep praying to God, and we keep asking Him for this and this and this and that. But when we are supposed to act on what it is that we want, we never do. So at that time I was thinking, okay, I keep saying I want a better life, I want this, I want that. So if I really want the things that I wanted at the time, then I needed to step out in faith. And that's exactly what I did. I stepped out in faith. So I'm a numbers person and I'm very analytical. So then I went and I looked at inflation, right? Our salaries are generally increasing by about 6 to 7% according to the general inflation rate. But what is your personal inflation rate, And what do I mean by that? In 2017, I bought my son this head to toe shampoo for the first time, and it cost me 49.99. The next time I bought it, it was 59.99. And that's a 20% increase in price. What that means is that randomly during the year, there was a price increase, whereas our salaries increase annually. So it could be true that our personal inflation is 20%. So it means that if your salary is increasing by 6-7% and your expenses are increasing by 20%, we're just getting poorer and poorer every single year. And that that just makes sense, because now, how many times have you said, I just got paid and I bought the things that I usually buy, I did everything that I usually do, I'm not extravagant, before you even spend money on yourself, and you're like, you don't know where the money went, and it's inflation. So then I was like, no, this can't be life. Can't be getting poorer and poorer every year, right? And then the other calculation that I did is to look at my income and expenses, right? So what we usually do, we usually check how much income we earn, and then we ration that income over expenses. So this time what I did, I just listed my expenses, the current expenses at the time. And then I added my wish list. And then I added tax. And then I gave myself a gross income. And that gross income was 4 times more than what I earned. And I knew no matter where I went, whatever job I applied for, nobody's going to pay me 4 times more than what I was earning. So then I was like, no, I need to do something, right? So that was one of my reasons. It was just so many things that just didn't make sense. The nail on the coffin was my exit interview. So the person who signed my certificate for Private Bank of the Year sat down with me to ask me, to stay and not resign. At the beginning of our conversation, he was like, maybe you're just exhausted, you're tired, take a break, take a month off, come back refreshed. And I was like, that could be it. He got me thinking. And then I asked him, are you going to pay me more when I come back? And he said, no. there are other positions that are available. I'm like, then why don't you just give me that position? And then he said, I need to be able to demonstrate that I can be a banker at that, and have certain conversations and blah, blah, blah. And it was at that moment I felt like he didn't know me well enough for him to say that to me, because it was the first time that we actually had a proper one-on-one where he's actually getting to know who I am. And I think he had an opportunity at that moment to ask me, what is it that you can do? Can you demonstrate this? Can you have this conversation? But he had already assumed that I won't be able to perform in that position. And then it was at that moment where I was like, you know what? I need to control my own destiny. And I'm leaving, I'm resigning. So resigning and leaving corporate is not always the solution, right? I'm not saying everybody's an entrepreneur, and I'm not saying you should leave your jobs. I mean, I've just told you that the past 4 years have been the hardest years of my life. So, and some people can't. I mean, I resigned before I had a baby. If I had my son afterwards, I would probably still be working in Joburg. So there are things that we can do with our money and decisions that we can make that can elevate us, whether we are entrepreneurs or whether we earn salaries. So those are the reasons why I left corporate. And what I did from then is start my businesses. So I'm very passionate about development. And so I have this marketing and brand development agency called Epicity. And the Epicity was inspired by a show that I used to watch many years ago called Peter Perfect. And Peter Ishkans used to develop small businesses that were actually running down. And he would go in, help them with strategy, package their products, give them an operational plan. Then he would help with uniform, signage, branding. And then once he's completed the project and given the business a complete overhaul, then he would have a business relaunch. So I used to love that. There's a similar show today that is called Hotel Impossible, which I really love as well. And basically that's how Epicity was birthed. So I do all of that. And then because I used to enjoy, I am passionate about private banking and money and people creating wealth. I also still wanted to do that, but without targets and without being biased. So I'm here to give you unbiased knowledge about money and unbiased information for you to be able to make decisions about money. And I want you to be able to have two-way conversations with financial institutions, with advisors, with accountants, with lawyers, right? I want you to be able to feel empowered enough to make financial decisions, because everybody's after your money that you've worked so hard for. So most places where you spend your money, the marketing is so well done that they make the decision for you because you don't have enough information for yourself. So I want you to take back that power. So what do I mean by the power is in your pocket? So I need you to understand who runs the economy and who is the economy, not what is the economy. Because when you say what, it seems like you are far away from it. But it's who is the economy. And the economy is each and every single one of us. If we don't work and if we don't spend money, there is no economy, right? And I want to demonstrate this by explaining the GDP equation. And gross domestic product measures economic activity, right? And it is made up of consumer spending, investments, government spending, exports minus imports. Now, if you look at the consumer starts everything. The individual starts everything with, if you as an individual do not spend money or do not demand products rather, right, then industries cannot be created because those industries will then feed the consumer. And if the industries are not developed, or there are no industries, or there are no investments, or there are no factories, for example, they cannot employ people, right? And once people are employed, they pay tax. And that's how the government generates money. So it takes you back to the individual. We are the ones that start everything, you know? And if there are no industries, we cannot export because we are not producing, right? And if we're not working, then we can't import because we don't have the money to do that. So who holds the power? You do. I do. It starts with us. So when we make money, we decide where we want to spend our money. We must decide, and our money must be the voice of how this economy runs, or anywhere in the world. And the people who are making billions of rands, dollars, euros, whatever, pounds, are the ones who have empowered themselves with the knowledge, and they were able to capitalize on what they know. So we all deserve that information. We all need to know the chain in which your rand, how, like when you spend your rand, you need to know where it's going and how it comes back to you. And I think once you have that knowledge, it will be so empowering. And then you'll also be able to know how to maximize profits, or rather how to get the most out of the economy. So I want to make an example about the power that you have. And so I don't know if you remember the bus boycott that happened in 1955, where Black Americans decided to start walking and boycott the buses. They bankrupted a whole industry, a whole bus industry. And I mean, we're still talking about it today. So that for me just shows you that so number one, I'm not saying we should bankrupt any industry. We should not bankrupt any economy. What I'm saying is just understand your power. What happens when you spend money? So also, it's so important for us to know about the economy, you know. You are born into this economy, right? So you need to understand how it works in order for you to make the most money out of it, right? So let me speak about sports, because I love sports, right? So when you first watch sport and you know nothing about it, right? You're going to learn all about it. What position is where. You're going to learn the rules of the game. You're going to learn, right? When you're interested in playing it, right, you might think that you want to play a particular or a certain position. But when you're playing, then you realize that no, maybe that's not for you, that's for somebody else. And then you start understanding everybody and you every position, and you understanding why they're there, that you can't be everything, you know? Basically, that's how the economy works. And then once you've learned how to play the game and you know the positions, then you're going to start practicing and learning to play the particular position that you're strong at. then you're not going to be like a superstar overnight. You're going to practice and practice and practice. And that's how the economy works. You're born into this thing, learn it, learn the rules of the game, learn the laws, the business rules, the everything that surrounds the economy, so that you know what you are strong at and for you to make the most money out of this economy. That is why it's so important. You hold the power, so you need to act like the person who holds the power. That's where I want to stop today. I wanted you to know a little bit about myself and why I think I know a little bit about my money. And it was important for me to tell you my story, because I'm still in the mess. So it's going to be interesting for you to follow my journey, for you to be able to see how I get myself out of it, because in most cases we usually listen to people who've made it in life, and yes, most of them do come from a place where I'm at right now, but I thought it would be great for you to be able to see it happen day by day, or week by week, or month by month. So in conclusion, as I mentioned, I want to provide unbiased knowledge about finances and the banking industry. So, and for me to be able to help you with creating generational wealth, I'm going to be talking mostly from a private banking perspective, because that's where I have experience. If you'd like to learn more about me and learn more about money and private banking and the economy and the world that we live in, please do subscribe to my channel, like, comment, share. And yeah, our next episode is about private banking, what it is and what you should expect from your private banker. So thank you for listening to me, and see you next time.